Everyone knows about Alex Honnold and his deadly unroped climbs on some of the biggest rock walls on Earth. But in a sport where one slip can send you plummeting to your death, there's another man who may be just as crazy as Alex Honnold. I'm talking, of course, about the French Spiderman, Alain Robert. While Alex Honnold may be the king of unroped rock climbing, Alain Robert is certainly the king of unroped urban climbing. Having climbed over 100 buildings in his career, Alain has somehow managed to survive one of the deadliest sports in existence. Now, that's not to say that everything has been smooth sailing for Alain throughout his career, okay? There have certainly been some problems throughout the years. Who would have thought? Besides the fact that Alain has fallen multiple times, which have nearly killed him, he's also run into problems with the law. Turns out that the police are not a big fan of this guy. This has led to Alain being arrested over 120 times throughout his climbing career. He's a bit of a bad boy, okay? He's the guy that drives a motorcycle in high school and holds a boombox over his head outside your window. Alain lives a very rock and roll lifestyle, getting arrested, paying thousands of dollars in fines, and being beaten by police on multiple occasions. I love the idea that he's just climbing buildings dressed as Spider-Man and everyone's like, look, it's Spider-Man, he is real. Then he gets to the top of the building and the police just start beating the shit out of him. No, what are they doing to Spider-Man? Tying into his rock and roll lifestyle, Alain frequently shows up to interviews dressed like a rock star, often wearing cowboy boots and bedazzled vests. The man's got style, what can I say? Although that's probably just because he's French. All of these things have led to Alain becoming a pop culture icon in the rock climbing and urban climbing communities. He's been featured in many shows and even talked about on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Fucking kidding me?
Yeah, doesn't that look helpless?
Oh my God, and listen to the wind. Oh fuck, man. Oh fuck.
You know you've made it when you're featured for 30 seconds on Joe Rogan. But Alain wasn't always the French Spider-Man. He began his career, like many of you watching this video, as a humble rock climber. Alain was born in 1962, and by the time he was an adult, he was already a very strong climber. But tragedy struck in January of 1982, when Alain fell while rock climbing. He fell 15 meters or 49 feet when his anchor and rope gave way. They just gave way. He fractured his wrists, heels, and nose, and underwent 3 operations. Now that may sound pretty bad, right? Falling 50 feet and just breaking a bunch of stuff. But Alain was back on his feet and returned to climbing by the end of that same year, which led to him falling again in September of 1982. This time, he once again fell 15 meters when his rope came undone while rappelling. He fractured both forearms, his elbow, pelvis, and nose, and fell into a coma for 5 days. What is going on with this man's ropes? The article is just like, yeah, they just kind of gave way. Great, I'm never sport climbing again. Unfortunately, while Alain did recover, this fall would leave him with lifelong injuries.
Tell me about these hands. I mean,
these hands, they are like shitty because this, you know, like for example, I cannot rotate at all. It has been blocked. That one is slightly better, but there is something even worse. The nerve got damaged, and I don't feel anymore those 2 fingers.
After this accident, Alain was diagnosed as 65% disabled, since he also now had cerebral edema, vertigo, and was partially paralyzed. This led to Alain climbing even more than he did before his accident, and eventually, he even began to climb without a rope. Of course he did. I mean, the ropes weren't doing him much good anyway. Despite his injuries and disability, Alain would spend the next decade becoming one of the best rock climbers in the world. And I think this is one of the most common misconceptions about Alain Robert. Is a lot of people see him climb these buildings and they're like, it's all jugs. It's a jug ladder. That's like V1. That's not that hard. I mean, I guess I should clarify, but most people don't say this. Climbers do. I think most people can appreciate the difficulty of what he's doing. It's just rock climbers who are like, that's not that impressive. Have you seen Adam Ondra on Silence? But despite many people, climbers, believing that Alain is just an average climber, that couldn't be further from the truth. Because back in the 90s, Alain was an extremely talented professional rock climber. He even free soloed a 513D back when the hardest route at the time was 514D. For any non-climbers watching, here's a chart of all like the climbing grades. This is the grade that he free soloed, and this was the hardest grade at the time. And for my climbers watching, that's like somebody free soloing Action Direct right now. That's also the last time I'm gonna say that word, because YouTube automatically demonetizes videos if you say this word, so hopefully those last 2 slip through the cracks. But to really hammer the point home of how good Alain really is at rock climbing, even Alex Honnold has talked about how influential he was as a rock climber.
Well, I think Alain Robert was one of the first people to really free solo very difficult routes. I mean, he free soloed 8A plus in France in the 80s, you know, back when that was an extremely hard grade. I mean, in fact, he's free soloed harder grades than I ever have.
So Alain was at the top of his field as a rock climber and pushed the boundaries of how dangerous the sport could be. He even began to climb over knives as a way to desensitize himself to the dangers of falling. Why? I gotta get that other 35% disability. All of this training led to Alain becoming an extremely confident climber, and in 1993, while Alain was showing a group of students how to rely on their legs while climbing, Alain lost his balance and fell 26 feet head first, shattering both of his wrists again, falling into a coma again, and spending 2 months in the hospital. What do you think the odds are that none of those kids ever climbed again after that? Well, I'll be. I guess it's not so dangerous after all. But the best way for you to prevent falling in the first place is by getting stronger fingers. Thankfully, this video is sponsored by Frictitious. For those of you out there that want the best frickin' fingers on the frickin' planet, you need a Frictitious hangboard. I know I talk about Frictitious hangboards a lot, okay? I just like them. That's the way it is. You put them up anywhere you want. It's a hangboard on a mount. You slap it on the wall, do some hangboard, and you take it back off. No fuss, no hassle. Bing, bang, boom, you hangboarded, you're done. A lot of us love rock climbing, but we need to get stronger. We need to train, and we don't want people to know we're rock climbers, okay? We're ashamed of it, and you should be. But with the Frictitious hangboard, you can have a hangboard in your home and just put it away when you're done. You bring somebody back home, a date, and you don't want them to know, oh my God, they're gonna think I'm a rock climber, they're gonna think I'm lame. Hangboards put away in storage, they'll never know. You can also bring these hangboards on vacation. You can bring them to work. You can bring them on a train if the train has doorways on it. You can hangboard anywhere you want with the same hangboard. No setup, no drill, nothing needed. It's just a hangboard on a mount. Hangboarding is also just super important for rock climbing. It helps you get your fingers strong, keep you from getting injured, help you pull harder, climb harder stuff. Maybe you send Burden of Dreams. Maybe you send Silence. We'll never know until you get a Frictitious hangboard. And thankfully, you can get a Frictitious hangboard today by clicking the link in the description, and you get 20% off any hangboard of your choice with the purchase of a doorway mount. Now, they don't make $1 million gold-plated hangboards, but if they did, you'd get $200,000 off that hangboard. $200,000 off. You're telling me you're not going to click the link in the description for what could be $200,000 off a hangboard? That's just crazy. So like I said, click the link down in the description below, click it, and buy a hangboard, get 20% off it when you buy a doorway mount with the hangboard. Pretty crazy. Now let's find out how Alain Robert became known as the French Spiderman. Now it's not exactly known when Alain first began urban climbing, and by that I mean I didn't find out when he started. But his first notable climb was in 1997 when he climbed the Petronas Towers in Malaysia. Unfortunately, Alain was never able to finish the climb, as authorities were able to apprehend him on the 60th floor. But in 1998, Alain was able to successfully climb to the top of a skyscraper in Japan, where the police were waiting for him at the top. He was then apprehended by police, beaten, and jailed. The lesson? Don't climb buildings in Japan. Later that year, Alain also managed to climb the Luxor obelisk in Paris, France. Which I gotta say, coolest climb by far. Climbing up ancient hieroglyphic runes as handholds. I'm pretty sure nothing I said there was correct, but it's a really cool climb. After reaching the top, Alain received a round of applause from onlookers before he climbed back down, and was subsequently arrested. Alain followed this by attempting to climb the Elf Tower in Paris, but after slipping and nearly falling to his death, he decided to cut the climb short. It was probably a good decision. Alain then successfully climbed the Marriott Hotel in Warsaw before heading to the US to climb the Sears Tower. Now this climb would get Alain a lot of attention, not only due to the fame of the building he was climbing, but also due to the difficulty of the climb. The route he chose to climb was a 443-meter crack climb. That's insane. One seam running 1/4 of a mile up the tower was all Alain had to make it to the top. It's also important to note that most of these climbs are on smooth metal surfaces with absolutely no friction, and he obviously didn't have a rope. Nevertheless, despite all of these challenges, Alain successfully climbed to the top of the Sears Tower in August 1999, and then he was arrested. But this climb would make Alain more famous than he'd ever been. And rumors began to circulate about a mysterious climber people were calling the French Spiderman. But not all was sunshine and rainbows in Spiderland, or wherever Spider-Man lives, Gotham City.
I'm Batman.
Where the fuck does Spider-Man live? It's like, is it just New York? Does he just live in New York? I don't know, I don't give a shit. Even though many people celebrated and admired Alain for his climbs because what he was doing was illegal, he also drew a lot of criticism. He is an ordinary thief, does not respect the property of other people, exposes passerby to possible injuries to the fall of his or part of the building. In USA, if someone saw him climbing on private property, he would have been shot. It is true that if he were to fall or if a part of the building fell off, there's a good chance somebody below would get killed, which is why it's illegal. But you can't just shoot people in the US for climbing on stuff. I'd be dead by now. Yes, climbing on other people's private property seems very interesting. What's next? Steal? Rape? I hate him. This dude definitely has kids in his neighborhood that come over and start climbing on the side of his house, and he's just looking out the window like, if only I lived in the US. Thankfully, Alain would garner enough fame that by the year 2003, he would not only get permission to climb many buildings, but sometimes he'd even get paid. But in February 2023, Alain was paid to climb the National Bank of Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates in front of 100,000 spectators. After successfully climbing to the top, Alain would get the biggest break of his career 3 months later. In May of 2003, Alain was paid $18,000 to climb a building to promote the new Spider-Man film. For those of you wondering, this was for the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire. The best one.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
Alain prepared for this event by wearing a full Spider-Man costume to help promote the film. It's Spider-Man! Look, that's what he looks like! This climb would make Alain Robert a living legend and solidify the name, the French Spider-Man. Over the years, he continued to do sponsored climbs around the world, like in 2006, when he climbed the Torre Vasco da Gama in Portugal to advertise the mobile network Optimus. Sellout. He also attempted to climb a building in Texas while wearing a goldenpalace.com t-shirt to advertise the website, which I looked it up, and it's an online gambling website. This would mark the beginning of a bit of a fall from grace for old Spidey, right? He went from saving Mary Jane from the Green Goblin to promoting online gambling. And to make matters worse, the police caught wind of his operation and arrested him before he could begin the climb. Alain tried to recover by climbing the Petronas Towers, which he famously failed in 1997. This time in 2007, people now had smartphones and were able to capture the climb on video. But once again, as Alain reached the 60th floor, he was apprehended by police. Dude cannot catch a break on the 60th floor. I didn't sit and count them individually, but it looks like the 60th floor is right around here where these balconies start popping up, so my guess is they just kind of nabbed him on one of the balconies. But in an effort to regain his image as the French Spider-Man, he headed to Shanghai, where he once again dressed up like Spider-Man before climbing the Jinmao building. When interviewed about the climb, Alain said, "One side of the story is more like James Bond, and the other side is more like climbing a ladder." And while this climb seemed like it would be an easy win for Alain, this time, he wasn't just arrested at the top. This climb had dire consequences. The Chinese government was not amused with Alain's Spider-Man act and elected to ban him from the country for 5 years. China banning a Marvel character, what a surprise. Now imagine if he was dressed as Black Panther instead of Spider-Man. Death penalty! Getting arrested in a full Spider-Man outfit is not a really good look. You know, every kid that was watching that was just absolutely traumatized. What are they doing? They can't arrest Spider-Man, he's one of the good guys! Quick, Spidey, shoot him with your web slinger! I wonder if when he showed up to court, he was still dressed in like the full Spider-Man getup, like, "Not guilty, Your Honor. I sentence you, Peter Parker, to 5 years banned from China." I don't know. It seemed that the French Spider-Man couldn't catch a break. He climbed the Federation Tower in Moscow and got arrested. He climbed the Portland House office building in London and got arrested. And in 2008, he returned to China and climbed the Four Seasons Place in Hong Kong. With the police standing by to arrest the former hero, Alain reached the top. But this time, he wasn't just arrested. This time, he had something to say. Alain claimed that he didn't just do this climb for fun. He did it to raise awareness for global warming. And this would become Alain's new primary focus as an urban climber. And later that year, in June of 2008, Alain would climb the New York Times building in New York. This time, he climbed with a banner, which he displayed on the side of the building. The banner read, "Global warming kills more people than 9/11 every week." What a slogan. After raising the controversial banner, Alain finished his climb and was once again arrested at the top. Alain was later sentenced to 8 days of community service and was banned from climbing in New York. But the message was clear. Alain was no longer just the rebellious French Spider-Man. He was now a climate change activist. Over the next 2 years, Alain continued to illegally climb buildings all around the world in an effort to raise awareness for global warming. And in 2009, he headed back to Malaysia for the 3rd time to climb the Petronas Towers. Only this time, he made it to the top. Alain was back, and better than ever. In Australia, Alain climbed a 41-story building, and while authorities disapproved, onlookers below celebrated the return of Spider-Man.
Is that French guy, French Spiderman? Yeah, that's him.
That's him.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Seriously. Are you kidding me? That's the dude. Oh, man.
I mean, I'd be pretty excited too. You go out for lunch and there's a 5-foot-tall Frenchman dressed as Spider-Man just skittering up the side of the building. That's a good day. And after all his success in 2009, Alain would return to doing paid climbs. He climbed the 240-meter central tower of Moscow State University to promote a 4D live show by David Adkins. He set the Guinness World Record for climbing the Aspire Tower in Qatar in the fastest time. And he climbed the Meridius Telecom Tower to promote the launching of 4G cellular technology. The man loves his cell phone sponsorships. And one of the biggest moments in his entire career, in March of 2011, Alain would legally climb the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the tallest building in the world. Now for this one, he did use a rope, but in his defense, this one looks significantly harder than a lot of his other climbs. It's a pretty challenging climb. And in fact, this climb was so long that it took Alain 6 hours to reach the top. I'm gonna be honest, it's a lot cooler when he does it without a rope. I hate to become the stereotypical climber I was just talking shit about earlier, but when you do it with a rope, it's just like a really long V2. I just realized it's like the most Boulder thing to say. It's like an 800-meter V2. Alain became so notorious after this that he even got banned from the Shard in London just for visiting. He can't even go near a building now without getting banned. I actually found a video of some teenager in the UK who tried to climb the Shard. He got like 20 meters away from the top and then he gave up, and he got in a lot more trouble than Alain does.
I achieved my dream. I'd done a few things in the press. I'd done it, you know, I wasn't gonna go to prison. They committed me to prison for 6 months.
I'm not going to prison. I am going to prison. This one kind of blew my mind because the longest sentence I've seen for Alain is like 2 months, and this kid did it one time and he got 6 months. So I'm guessing it's just because Alain's famous, he just gets lighter sentences. I hate to break it to you guys, but that's the way it works. Now around 2015, it seems that Alain started to film more of his own ascents. And if you go on his YouTube channel, you can see hundreds of videos that he's uploaded from his GoPro. Like his 2016 video of him climbing the Sky Melia Barcelona, which has 3 million views. In the video, Alain casually exits his car before passing a group of construction workers and quickly climbing onto the building. It's actually really cool. You get to see his own POV, first-person perspective of him climbing these skyscrapers. And there's even this part where he like stops to take a break and checks his watch, and you can just see how absolutely mangled his wrists are from all those falls when he was younger. Dude's wrists look like they're in a John Carpenter movie. He also regularly stops at resting points to drink like tea or something that he keeps in his chalk bag, and it is so stressful to watch. And then when he gets near the top, there's an open window and he's just like, "What's up?"
Hello?
Absolute legend. Then he tops out, which, let me tell you, is the most stomach-churning part of the video. He tops out on this massive building and then pulls out a BlackBerry. The dude has 100 mobile phone sponsorships and he can't get a fucking smartphone. And another great video he has when he climbed the Lotte Tower in Korea in 2019. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly at all. This one's essentially just a series of rungs he climbs on the side of the building, and at one point, he puts in a knee bar and just goes completely hands-free. I hate it. But while he's climbing the building, the authorities start trying to actively arrest him. Now, I know from Alain's perspective, he probably just wants to climb without being bothered, but I gotta say, when the authorities get involved and they start chasing him up the building, it's pretty damn exciting.
Hey, stop! Stop, please! Stop, please! Stop, please! Stop, please! Hey!
So where is Alain Robert today? Sitting at a comfortable 62 years old, Alain is still out there doing what he loves. He did a collab climb with a few other urban climbers a couple years ago. He reclimbed the Skyper building and Tour Total, and just last year he reclimbed the GT International Tower in the Philippines. Alain is showing no signs of slowing down, and I'm sure we'll see plenty of cool climbs from him in the future. Now, Alain's climbed like over 100 buildings in his career, so obviously I didn't mention all of them in the video. You know, like the Empire State Building, the Eiffel Tower, some of his other notable climbs. If you want to check him out yourself, I'll link his YouTube channel in the description. You can check out some of his videos. They're pretty fun to watch. Also, forgot to mention, Alain's birthday's coming up in a couple weeks. So everybody wish Alain a happy 63rd birthday, and click the link in the description. You'll get a hangboard, 20% off that hangboard. You buy the doorway mount, pretty crazy. And I'll see you guys next time.